Yes, that is me, and I'm also wondering how I let things get this bad.
Tough time never lasts. Only tough people last.
But before I fill you in on the backstory, I'd like to introduce myself.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you.
So, my name is Olamide Madi. I'm a video editor, visual effects artist, and 3D artist from Lagos, Nigeria. And this is my submission to Punisher's Endless Engines Challenges. Punisher's Endless Engines Challenge.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
It's also my first ever entry to any of his challenges. Yeah, so this was started and finished in less than 24 hours, rendered in Blender, Eevee, composited in Adobe After Effects, and it's also my first ever entry into any of his challenges. So how did I get to the point where I had just 24 hours to work on this thing? And I was like, wow, okay. Now it went from me not having any time at all because I was very busy, to me saying, okay, what kind of quick idea can I bring to life? I'm not entering this challenge to win anything. I just want to enter it for the fun of it. Coupled with the fact that you know how YouTube algorithm works. I watched the announcement video, and so YouTube started pushing, people posting their work in progress, and then I would watch one, and then I watched a lot of work in progresses, and I even left comments on a couple of them, and I was just like, wow, there are a lot of talented artists. So it suddenly went from me not having time and not wanting to bother to me pressurizing myself to come up with something good so as to not miss out on yet another challenge, because I wanted to enter the last one and I pretty much procrastinated till I couldn't anymore. And so the idea to create my entry came to life. So my idea for my entry was centered around using an iconic location around where I live, which is Lagos, Nigeria. And so this is a bridge that is very popular here. I thought, what if I use this scenery and combine it with one of the most iconic means of transportation over here, which are referred to as Danfo buses. Yeah, so make an animation of this bus on this bridge. Alright, so let's head straight into Blender. And here in Blender you have my scene. If I should play it back in solid mode, this is what we have. And you see we have the bus, we have the cars, we have the bridge, we have the smoke simulation. Actually it's just a volume that's animated, but yeah, this is my entry in solid form. And if you come out, you will see the full thing here. This bridge was by my friend Colored Savage. He made this bridge last year for an image render, and so I remember that he had it, and I asked him if I could use it for my project, and he said sure, no problem. So huge shout out to him for lending me his bridge. It really saved me because I had less than 24 hours to make this thing, and yeah, I couldn't start modeling anything from scratch. And once I was basically done with tweaking the assets, I had to get a model of this bus. So I actually bought this model for $30, and I actually spent 3 hours retexturing and fixing this model because it was, made in some other software and the textures weren't importing properly. So did a lot of damage and stuff like that to the body. I dented the face, I just damaged the model, did a lot of stuff. Because if you look at our reference, most of these buses are actually in a terrible state, and if I had more time I would have done more to sort of make it look rougher. If you look at them, most of them are really rough and just in a bad state, but I didn't have that much time, so this is as much as I could do in terms of trying to make it look worn out and damaged and old. So once I was basically done with damaging our model, I got a bunch of free low poly models from Sketchfab, and I just basically created a path and I animated them to the path. If you come here and see, you'll notice that it's actually moving and it's following the path. Let me go to solid mode, and it's following the path, but I didn't animate the tires since the camera couldn't see that. I needed to save more time, but for this ones the tires are actually animated. I don't know if you can notice it, but the tires are animated. And another detail a lot of you guys did not notice was the character, because this place is also iconic for having people jog by these side lanes. She should actually be on the side lane, but she would not have shown in the camera. If I should switch to my camera view and you look closely early on, you would actually see her in the shot. But you realize that once you switch to render view, you won't really notice her, but she's actually there jogging away. You have the cars, the low poly cars. They are really low poly. They're barely detailed and you can't really notice that they are low poly because of the nature of the shot. You have the bridge, you have the bus. Now let's go into the bus. You see that I have a driver here, which is just a character from Mixamo, and you can see the hands. Bro, it's so funny. I was panicking so much and rushing everything. You can see the hands. I just needed to see his silhouette through the window. It's barely noticeable in the final render though. Then you have what we call the bus conductor. Let's go out of here. And you notice that it's actually like roughly animated. You just have him, and you notice that I actually did a quick rough animation where you notice that he's swaying to the motion of the bus. And yeah, the animation is not clean, but I just tried my best to rush it. You notice his body is following the momentum of the way the bus swerved. I just quickly animated that, and then you see him pop back out. Okay, then we move to the camera view, since at this point it's very visible, and you just see him, and by the time the bus is steady, he's steady as well. And when the bus starts to pick up speed, you notice that he starts to go free and just move out of frame. So yeah, you'll notice here that if you check the modifier, I'm using a mesh to volume on a cube and I'm displacing it, and just it's a quick hack for creating smoke in Blender. Let me switch to render view and you can see it's there. And so yeah, that's just a quick breakdown of how I made my scene, the concept behind it. I basically used an HDRI for my lighting, and I also have a sunlight in the scene because this is Eevee, so I had to put a sun in the scene. And if I turn the sun off, you see what it does. Off, on. Yeah, the HDRI lights the scene a bit, but it's not that strong. And you notice that because it's Eevee, I had to add a bunch of point lights to the bus and the cars too, so they light up the scene as well as they're moving. And yeah, I think that's just basically it. I got to this point right around 6 a.m. and I basically just did my render settings in Eevee, set up everything I needed to set up, and I just hit the render and I was out from Blender. Okay, so now we're in Adobe After Effects. If you're probably wondering why I have just one still frame, it's because I already deleted the full image sequence of the render I made just because my PC didn't have storage and I needed to free space in order to be able to make this video. So I rendered out in the given resolution that we were told to use, which was 1920 by 810. This is double of that, which is supposed to be like 4K, but it's not true. It's like anamorphic 4K. So I just normally fit to comp, and yeah, that will fit to it. And so this is just, let's just imagine that this is my playing render, right? So the first thing I added was my lens flares. You can see that they're there. Let me put it on full. You can see the difference between before, after the lens flares. And lens flares, which is basically just magic bullet looks and star glow combined together. Then the next layer is my color correction. As you can see, the before, the after, I just tweaked it till I got something I felt looks nice. Then after that, I added another layer of color correction. Just to tie everything together, you notice this nice blur on the edges, just to give the center more attention. It's there, like if I should boost it, you'll notice it. I just didn't want it to be too much, but you'll notice it. You'll notice that the edges are blurred, but I just made it really subtle, curves as well, just to add more contrast to the scene. And the next thing I added was a sort of chromatic aberration to distort the edges and also add some RBG to my render, just to give it that Into the Spider-Verse feel. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. And then I added a film grain overlay. You'll notice it once I turn it off. Turning on, there's a film grain overlay. Then I also added a bokeh lens overlay. It's very subtle, you won't really notice it except for around the edges of the video. You know, just those little things to make it feel more cinematic and nice overall. So now once I've done all of my major color correction and post-processing, the final layer of things I'll add is usually sharpen at 38 or between 25 to 50 depending on what the footage is like, and on sharp mask with these values. Then because when you use a sharpen, it causes this issue whereby it has this white edge that is there. You can always notice it. If I should turn it off, you will notice it. It's not there, but when I turn the sharpens back on, you'll notice that it is there, and it's very annoying. So I always punch in on my footage a bit just to get rid of that white border from sharpening my videos. And then I add hue and saturation, and I just reduce the saturation by like 10. And yeah, that was all I did for the post-processing on my render. If I do the before after, you can see how much of a difference that is. And if you turn the original animation back on, yeah, that was practically it. I just added a song which is called Organized by a Nigerian artist known as Ashake. Then I added some, you know, boss sound effects, some ambient noise of sort of cars moving around and stuff like that. Basically, I rushed the sound design. It's not the best thing out there, but yeah, it doesn't matter in your final render. It's just for you to showcase on YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah, that was how I made my entry in less than 24 hours. It is not the most sophisticated scene, but I was able to, you know, present the idea of, yo, this is the popular link bridge in Lagos, Nigeria. This is the popular downfall bus in Lagos, Nigeria, and here is a scene representing that. I guess, I don't know. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be back with a new video soon. Peace.